By the late 15th century, Europe was experiencing intense curiosity and ambition. The search for new trade routes and the expansion of knowledge drove explorers like Christopher Columbus to cross the oceans. In 1492, Columbus, under the auspices of the Catholic monarchs of Spain, arrived in what we now know as America, opening a new world filled with possibilities and challenges. The encounter between Europeans and indigenous civilizations was a momentous event. Upon landing in the Caribbean islands, Columbus and his men met the Taino and Arawak peoples, who received the newcomers with curiosity and hospitality. However, this first encounter would mark the beginning of a devastating process for these cultures. The arrival of Europeans brought with it unknown diseases, such as smallpox, which would decimate indigenous populations in the years that followed. As news of the New World spread across Europe, conquest became an obsession. Hernán Cortés, driven by ambition and the promise of wealth, arrived in Mexico in 1519. Facing the Aztec Empire, Cortés formed alliances with tribes hostile to the Aztecs and used the superiority of European weaponry to carry out a brutal conquest. In 1521, the fall of Tenochtitlan marked a pivotal point in Spanish expansion. Shortly thereafter, Francisco Pizarro achieved a similar feat in Peru, where the Inca Empire was defeated in 1533. The capture of Inca Emperor Atahualpa and his subsequent execution reflected the violence of the conquest. With the riches of gold and silver in their hands, the conquerors consolidated Spanish control over vast regions of South America. Throughout the 16th century and into the early 17th century, Spain established a vast colonial empire. Spain organized its territories into viceroyalties, such as the Viceroyalty of New Spain and the Viceroyalty of Peru. Colonization brought about the construction of cities, the introduction of European crops, and the establishment of an encomienda system. The encomienda system exploited indigenous peoples for labor in mines and plantations. However, Spanish rule was not a uniform process. Indigenous communities resisted in various ways, from open rebellions to the preservation of their cultures in secret. Mestizage also emerged as a key phenomenon in the new society, blending European, indigenous, and African elements. The 18th century brought political changes in Europe and a growing questioning of the legitimacy of colonialism. Enlightenment ideas and independence movements began to gain traction in Latin America. The American and French revolutions inspired many Creoles who sought to liberate themselves from Spanish rule. The spark of independence finally ignited a series of revolutions in the early 19th century. Figures such as Simón Bolívar, José de San Martín, and Miguel Hidalgo led struggles for freedom in various territories. In 1808, Napoleon's invasion of Spain further weakened colonial authority, and independence movements flourished. By 1825, most of Latin America had achieved independence, marking the end of 3 centuries of Spanish domination. The legacy of this period would be complex. The blending of cultures, the struggle for identity, and the formation of new nations would shape the path forward, while the scars of colonialism still lingered in the collective memory. Thus, the discovery, conquest, and subsequent colonization of America up to the 19th century represented a significant chapter in global history, filled with contrasts between human ambition and suffering, creation and destruction, discovery and loss.